Hey y'all, it's me, and you already know. Like, share, and subscribe. What's up, real deal? Y'all come on in. We on day cinco of Uncle Johnathan Quiles murder trial of his niece. Yes, y'all come on in. Stop by the like button before you come in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Even if you're watching, you can still hit the like button. We got a couple minutes, y'all. We got about 2 more minutes. Man. All right, let me get situated. Oh, Lord. Let me get situated myself, honey. Ooh, where is my phone? Minute. Y'all come on in. I'm trying to get organized. Minute, why I do that phone? Oh, here you go right here. Y'all, my dog's up under me like, whoa, hey. Okay, let me finish typing this in. Come on in, y'all. Get some bacon, eggs, grits, whatever you want to eat. Drink. Come on in. All right, y'all. We gonna cover little ground rules before we get started, but y'all can still come on in. We're gonna cover little ground rules, okay? I want to go over with y'all how my channel is ran, okay? Welcome. First of all, welcome, real deal. Please subscribe to the channel. Thanks. And super chat is welcome as well. Your reaction on the video a must and not on me. Thanks. No profanity. All right, that's how the real deal run her channel. Okay. Yes. So I got the waiting on him to come on, y'all. I got him live. Oh, where my phone at? I got to make sure everything's straight. All right, y'all. This morning, if I fall asleep, I'm sorry. I work early in the morning, so I didn't get that extra sleep like y'all did, and I got to go back to work. So it is what it is. You know it's me, but I do snore. I mean, I don't mean it to do it loud, but I don't have no control of it. I might not fall asleep. I don't know what my brain gonna do. Okay, yeah. All right, y'all, we about to get started. Take notes. Make sure you take notes. I turn it up. Supposed to be good today, y'all. Hopefully, the wife take the stand. Ex-wife take the stand. Hopefully, I really don't know, but I know this is day cinco. Uncle Johnathan Quiles murder trial of his niece. Okay, y'all don't have to peek. Y'all can come on in. You're welcome to my channel. I'm gonna be here whether or not nobody else gonna be here for you. All right, y'all. We waiting on them to come on. I'm gonna talk to y'all. Till they come on. This is Dave Cinco. Um, oh Lord, rest of it, man, it's crazy. Okay, let me see. Can I give y'all a little feedback on day Cinco? Let me see. What's supposed to happen on day 5? How everybody doing this morning? If you're not feeling good, I hope you get well. And if you're feeling good, good. That's great. And see y'all what the prosecutor trying to say that saying the same thing we saying, but we gotta prove what the prosecutor is saying is that Quiller's dumped niece's body in an auto junkyard where he worked. Cause like y'all said, they got the little small stuff. Yeah, the prosecution is arguing that Jonathan dumped his pregnant niece Ayana Sawyer body into a auto yard. He had to, cause he went past the screen where it was later taken to a landfill and never found. That's what happened. He know what he did. He took her body. He taped her up, make sure she ain't come loose. And I could see his face, or how he was looking when he was tying her up. And he loved her. He told her he loved her. Yeah. He dumped her. He dumped her body in that junkyard. He know he did. where he work at, and they took it to the landfill, and they couldn't find that body. It was so messed up. Smash. She was 16 years old, y'all, when she disappeared. Just 16. And her body was never found. Never found, y'all. Mm. Mm, mm. I don't understand how people can live like that. If you can live after something like this right here, I mean, golly, you don't have a heart. Here they come, y'all. Turn the mic on.
I was muted. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We're here for day 7 of our trial, day 4 of testimony.
He said
We have
7.
counsel of the state defense and Mr. Quiles present. Before we bring the jury out, is there anything that we need to handle outside their presence first from the state?
He said 7. How we on day 7?
Good morning, Your Honor. I just wanted to let the court know that I don't know if it will be enough time where we'll be on a break or not before the 4th witness. I just wanted to let the court know that witnesses 4, and then it will either be 5 or 6 depending on the testimony 4. They will be the Williams rule witness where there will be needed instruction, Your Honor. And secondly, based upon the testimony, the state will be requesting as well 918.16(2), which is clearing of the courtroom involving sexual abuse testimony. However, there are exceptions within Paren 2 who can stay in the courtroom, Your Honor.
Siete.
By clearing the courtroom, you mean everybody?
No, that's why I was saying there's exceptions that are specifically listed within Paren 2. If they're
For
not,
example,
let me just read it, Your Honor.
yeah, I don't have it in front of me. So.
Of course, that's why I wanted to bring it. I didn't want to do it in the middle of front.
Siete.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. So it talks about clearing the courtroom, and then it says
Number 7 in Spanish.
Upon the request of the victim. Then it says
Siete.
except the parties to the cause and their immediate families or guardians, attorneys and their secretaries, officers of the court, jurors, and then it does say newspaper reporters or broadcasters, court reporters, and then anyone else at the request of the victim.
So the media is included in the exceptions.
Yes.
Baby.
I do. Yes, sir. So it would just be any other potential people that are coming and going, I guess, really expect me to.
So essentially, they can't be in the courtroom, but they can go outside and stream it on the news.
So that was another thing I was going to obviously see to make sure if we can see with the media SS and ID spaces based upon their.
You the judge.
I'm not asking the court that. I know that has to be independent from the court.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can control that.
I know that.
It's my understanding.
What do you know as a judge?
Showing the faces of any of the alleged victims or children.
That's my understanding as well. I think that's more of an independent decision that they have made.
Understood.
I have not forced them or asked them to do so. I'm not sure if anybody else has, but I have noticed that myself.
I'm not asking the court to do that. We're going to ask that for our media, but I wanted to let the court know, obviously, about that. Of course, if there's anyone additional.
He the judge. He make the decision.
During SS and ID's testimony only.
So who is allowed?
So who is allowed, Your Honor? That would be obviously all the court personnel, attorneys and assistants, immediate family member, and then
But you said immediate family member as in one single immediate family member?
No, it's plural, immediate families or guardians. It's usually a parent is usually who can stay. And then, of course, it talks about newspaper reporters, broadcasters.
So court personnel, attorneys and assistants, immediate families of the person testifying.
Correct.
So for ID, would that include clearing the courtroom of other family members?
Correct. The only person that could potentially stay during IDs would be her father,
Okay.
which her father has been attending.
And you spoken with the victim's family about that?
I have not at this point
What?
had a chance, but they're aware of. We talked in the past about it.
You should have did that. She wants you to do it.
Well, how would you want me to do that? And I haven't read the statute. I need to look at it to see
Yes, sir.
if it's permissive, mandatory on the court. I don't know.
This is shall.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, if we do one witness after a break, that's one thing. But if if personnel in the courtroom has to change at some point of who's allowed and who's not in, doing that in front of I'm not sure doing that in front of the jury is a good idea.
That's why I was asking maybe if we wanted to take a break after witness 3, because then it will be those couple of witnesses, Your Honor.
That's witnesses 3 and 4.
It's witnesses 4 and 5. Take a break after 3. Number 3.
So I'm saying taking a break between witness 4 and 5 as well. How am I supposed to switch out people who are allowed in the courtroom?
Understood, Your Honor. Obviously, that's why I just wanted to bring it for the jury.
She done too much. She need to go back to sleep. Don't let her take care of it. Don't let her tell you what to do. Do your thing, baby. These women, something else.
The state developing the statute, so I'll defer to the court, Your Honor.
Okay. I find it ironic that they can just walk outside and stream it. But okay,
But it's also about who they have to say it in front of, too, Judge.
completely understand. I'm not questioning any of that. I'm not in their shoes, so it's hard for me to put myself in that position. I think there's some irony there. I think we can all see that. Yes, sir, Mr. Skinner.
Your Honor, just 2 quick things.
Is your back okay this morning?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Your back okay this morning?
Not, actually, it's not. It's actually on fire. That's all me trying to spread. Just 2 things other than that from the state. One, we have disclosed to the defense this morning regarding this Damian Hatch. We intend on calling Damian Hatch, and he, as the rule requires us, if he changes anything or anything differs from what he said in his deposition, we have to certainly tell the defense. In prepping him between now and 12 hours ago when we broke, I had him read through his deposition. There's one fact that he said either was misunderstood by the court reporter or he misspoke, and so he wanted me to know that. I have told counsel, in essence, Judge, to make it quick, we anticipate him testifying that the defendant walked him through what happened between him and IS. It is a confession witness. He gives several details and facts that he believes that he knows that the defendant told him. In deposition, he said that he dumped.
Are we on day 5 or 4?
He says, I meant to say
7.
he dumped the girl. So I have made that disclosure to the defense before coming on the record today. Just want to put it on the record so that the record's clear that we have disclosed once we pre-trialed him in preparation for today's testimony. I let him read his deposition, and he noted that that's what it said, and that's not what he says the defendant told him. It was not the gun that he dumped. He said it was the girl that he dumped. So just want to make sure the record's clear on that. Second and last, with respect to Kamar Humphreys, this is more of an administrative matter. The state is going to announce today whether we intend on calling Kamar Humphrey. At this point, I'll just advise the court. I've kind of told the defense as well. We are leaning towards.
So we on day 4
He's here. We have him here. He's under subpoena. I would never let him
or
fly
5.
out of town. Now that he's here under subpoena, I've told the defense we would hold him here. But just to put on the record, from the moment we announced that we're releasing him from our subpoena, we would ask the defense to incur those costs moving forward. If they would have to hold him here for a couple more days, just want to put that on the record for administrative purposes.
Okay.
Judge, we just learned of it. Obviously, this is an issue with JAC. Given I learned of it literally 5 minutes ago, if we have to stroke a check and reimburse the state, then so be it. We'll do whatever we got to do to finish this trial.
Okay. Anything else from either side?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. French, you said after witness 3 is what becomes an issue?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Is knowing the lengths of these next 3 witnesses, is that about the mid-morning break anyways?
I think so, Your Honor. Given that it's already 9:16, yes, sir, Your Honor. I think that will probably be about an hour and a half.
Okay. Can we bring the jury in, please?
Oh, yeah. I thought we was on day 5, but I'm not sure.
Might have been precise. No, Patches was official. Patches was official. That's right, because we went to Baker County.
I think we on Cuatro.
Your Honor, the jury enters court.
Attention viewers, we are sorry to interrupt your show, but we just received a call from
It's day 4.
Members of the jury, welcome back. You guys may have a seat, of course. Welcome back for our trial. Let's make sure they have all the right notepads. Oh, they need more pads. Okay. Certainly, if you guys need more, just let Mr. Gray know. He'll certainly accommodate you in that regard. Does everyone have the right notepads, though? Okay, I'm getting a bunch of nod heads. All right, we're going to continue with our trial here. And I'll look to the state. State, you can call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state would next call Ryan Nestor.
I do. Sir, good morning to you. Just watch your step. If you need a glass of water, let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you.
I could have.
If there's an objection made, yeah, Mr. Gray will get you a glass of water.
Thank you.
If there's an objection made during the course of your testimony, I just ask that you pause, let me rule on the objection, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
With that said, Ms. French, you may inquire. You're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Ryan Nestor.
And can you spell your last name?
It is Nestor.
How long have you been employed with, are you employed with JSO?
I am.
And how long?
8 years.
And what is your current title at JSO?
I am a public safety analyst supervisor.
And how long have you been a supervisor as a public safety analyst?
1 year.
And what does that exactly mean?
In my current role, I supervise the analysts, but as a, sorry, I feel a little loud there. As a crime analyst, we support a multitude of units within our agency in 2 facets. One is the patrol facet, where we do crime analysis. Our analysts are tasked with analyzing patterns, series, and trends so they can better direct patrol to crimes that are happening in their areas so they can better police them. And then we have analysts that support the investigative units. And they will support the units like homicide, robbery, special assault, and they'll assist with their investigations, finding people, identifying phone numbers, social media, mapping cell phone records.
So prior to being a supervisor, were you considered a crime analyst?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long had you been a crime analyst prior to being a supervisor for the past year.
7 years.
Is it fair to say then back in December of 2018, 2019, several other years through 2022 that you were a crime analyst?
Yes.
And during the time frame of December 2018 and then 2019, were you assigned to a specific investigative unit?
In that time, I believe I was assigned to the gang unit, either the gang unit or the violent crimes unit. We bounce around every couple of years.
Now, as part of being a crime analyst, specifically, you were assigned to those divisions. Do you also have an on-call rotation?
Yes. So in order to make sure that all the analysts get enough rest, before we established an on-call position, if an analyst was reporting homicide, they could get called at all hours for help. So we decided to establish an on-call system. That put our analysts on call 1 week in for a rotation. So usually we're on call 3 to 4 weeks a year.
And during a certain time frame, then in that December time frame, January time frame, were you asked to assist involving a missing persons case?
I was.
And have you been ultimately, though, contacted to assist by Detective Porter, who's now retired from missing persons, and then homicide detective Billy Abbott?
Yes.
And were you asked to look at phone records in regards to an IS and then a defendant by the name of Johnathan Quiles?
I was asked to look at phone records for IS.
And then in regards, just further going off of phone data, would that be from Google in regards to the defendant, Johnathan Quiles?
Yes, I was asked to look at those as well.
Now, I want to first talk about the records that you received in regards to the target of the defendant, Johnathan Quiles. I believe you stated you received some Google records.
That's correct.
And what does that mean, Google records?
So Google, if you have a Google account, and this is easier for them to do if you have a Samsung or any device that's using Android, because Google owns Android. And just like iPhone, that you need a iCloud account to use an iPhone, you need a Google account to use an Android device. So with that, Google is tracking your locations through your account using their apps, their programs on their phone. And so we have access to that information if we do a search warrant.
Now, where does that data originate? Meaning, what does Google, you said it captures a location?
Correct.
And that is based upon, is the Google account have to be on, or does it always have to be on with a Samsung type phone?
So the way they do it is that it's all tied to your account. So if you don't go into your account itself and delete the location history, they're going to continue to track your phone. So if you were to put your phone in airplane mode, your device is still storing locations. And then when you turn it off airplane mode and connect back to the network, they're going to upload all those past locations to their servers.
What? I didn't know that.
They used to retain this information for forever, but within the last couple of years, they've made adjustments where they're only retaining the last 18 months of that data. And they use this data to build a profile about you, not just your locations, but your habits, what you buy, what you purchase, and they anonymize you and sell that information to advertisers so they can better target ads.
What if, Mr. Nestor, a person turns off their phone? Would Google records then be able to locate your different locations?
No, they would not. So Google has a process. They use 3 different types of ways to track your location. The first is with assisted GPS. So that differs from standard GPS, where if you're outside, your phone can connect to the satellites that are in the air and they can triangulate your location. The issue with that is that there's only 32 or so of these satellites that are available for the general public to use. And it takes a lot of processing and battery power to find these things and connect to them. Plus, you also have to be outside. So they use assisted GPS to find that location using cell towers to connect to servers that know these locations, and it cuts down on the processing time, and they can track your phone indoors. They can better triangulate your phone indoors. And when you're using assisted GPS is when you've opened, like, say, your Google Maps, and you've plotted a location, and it's going to take you there. And it's very accurate, usually within 3 to 5 meters, so that they can tell you you need to turn right in 800 feet. If they can't get a hold of GPS, they're going to use Wi-Fi data points. Now, they have patented some algorithms that are proprietary that we don't know exactly how they work, but they are using Wi-Fi points to triangulate a location of your device. If they can't get a hold of Wi-Fi, there's no Wi-Fi in the area, they will use cell phone towers. And if there's no cell phone towers in the area that they can use to triangulate the device.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing that you stated? That they're
Cell towers.
after cell towers.
After cell towers, you won't get any records. So your phone is either in the middle of nowhere or it's off.
Good information. I ain't know all that. Y'all in my business.
And I think you might have already, I just want to make sure I ask again. What if someone puts their phone in airplane mode? Specifically, I guess, regarding an Android type account.
If your phone is in airplane mode, Google is still collecting those locations because you can still be connected to like Wi-Fi points and stuff like that. So they're still able to collect some location data. It's just going to get stored in your phone. And when you reconnect to the network, they'll just upload those locations.
So, Mr. Nestor, what if someone goes back in their phone and deletes their locations? Would that be memorialized if someone then requested the Google records?
It can be. For these records, there were no tombstones as they're known in the records of deletion. Which simply means that there was just no processing on the server at the time that they were requested. That's all. If they were deleted and they had a record of it, they would have been there.
And you mean on the actual Google records?
Yes, correct.
So there could potentially be a difference between Google records and then what's on a person's cell phone?
No, just a difference between if they've deleted something and whether or not Google has a record of that or not.
Now, were you asked, I haven't brought this up yet, the Google records specifically for the numbers 904-568-1617?
Is that for the for IS?
For the Google records.
The Google records aren't tied to a phone number. They're usually tied to a device ID and the Google account email.
Okay, so it's tied to the email, not the number.
Yeah, the device specifically.
Okay.
And then when we know a device number, we can subpoena or do a search warrant for Google to get all the subscriber information that goes along with that device number. And that's when we'll get back a Google account, which usually has a Gmail associated with it.
Now, were you asked to create Google location maps for December 19th and December 20th of 2018?
It was.
When you received the records, are there specific things that you are looking for?
When I usually receive Google records, yeah, I'm usually just looking to see where the device is at. If we get enough of them, just trying to understand kind of where the device goes, what locations it frequents, so that we can help the detectives build a better case, and then kind of understand if there's any areas of interest that they need to look at that we didn't know about before based on where the device had traveled to.
And how do you map these? Do you use a specific program?
We use several different programs. The main one I used to make the maps is a program called ZETX, Z-E-T-X, and it just nicely spits out a file that we can put into Google Earth. I also look at the records in a program that the FBI manages called CASVIZ. We use that one as well just to kind of see the locations, mostly map them in different programs to make sure that they're accurate.
And approximately how many times have you been asked to create these type of maps?
Google Maps, probably around 50 times in my career.
Now, in regards to the Google Maps, does that involve potentially any points of interest, or do you just map what's shown?
Generally, when we first look at, I just generally map what's shown If there are areas of interest that the detectives are interested in, I'll plot those on the map so that they can see. But usually if I'm just doing investigative work, I just kind of plot everything and we just kind of look at it.
Now, do you use cell tower in order to map these Google records, or do you not need them at all?
We don't need cell towers. So like cell phone records, we would need a cell tower list to help understand where the device was in relation to the records, depending on the records we get from a cell phone company. Google is giving us a point that they say the phone is, and they're giving us a display radius.
Now, what information are on these lists to help pinpoint where a person is located?
The lat and long, longitude, latitude.
Okay, I'm going to draw your attention now to December 19th, 2018. Were you asked to map anything post 10:45 in the morning on the 19th of 2018 December?
I believe I was just asked to map the whole day.
And were you able to obtain any Google data from that particular day?
Yes.
All right. And did that time frame include 11:15 a.m. to approximately right before 11:40 a.m.?
It did.
I'm going to be showing you now what is listed in evidence as number 35. Can you see your screen, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Pause it I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to give a pause. Now, can you explain the different things like the white box to the right? Can you tell us what is located in that white box?
That white box is the, just looking at, it just contains the case number as well as the time frame for the records that were mapped.
And the case number, would that be the CCR 18-866278?
It is.
And is that the unique JSO case number?
It is.
And this map, it was obtained at, like as stated, bottom of the left corner of Google Earth?
Yeah, so the program ZX gives us a file that we can load into Google Earth and then plot these.
Now, that box that is in the top left-hand corner, can you explain that, please?
That's what Google Earth calls a time slider. That is, you can adjust the time range that you're seeing on the screen, date and time.
And I think you had indicated earlier that this is from 000 through 2359. So that would be the entire 24 hours of December 19th, 2018?
Correct.
I press play for the record. Now I'll pause it at 9 seconds. Can you describe what's happening now at the bottom middle of the map?
Yes, some locations are starting to appear. These are the Google locations that we've got from the records for this day.
Now, is this in the area here in Jacksonville near Main Street?
I believe Main Street's yes, it's a little south of there, but.
Because was one of the locations that you were given at Ace Pick Apart off of North Main Street?
It was.
Now, in looking at our map, would this be north of Ace Pick Apart?
It would be.
And it looks like we can see the intersection of 95 and 295 as well. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So are we on the north side of Jacksonville?
That is correct.
Now, when we're following, and I was pausing for 13 seconds, when we see the time, let's just, for example, 12/19/2018, 11/16/44, is that actual Eastern time?
Yes, ma'am.
And when we see a red pen, what does that mean?
That indicates the location that Google has told us the device is.
And I think you had stated earlier, Mr. Nestor, that this is an approximation of 3 to 5, was it meters?
On average, 3. Sometimes they can be a little bit larger than 3 to 5, but usually GPS records are within 3 to 5 meters of a display radius.
Now, the current information that we are finding, I know that you had mentioned earlier, there's different data that can be on Google records. Were you able to determine which data this was from the Google records?
These are GPS records.
I stopped it here at 59 seconds at 11:31:18. The spot has become now about around that red pin a lighter red color circle. What does that indicate, Mr. Nestor?
Indicates that the display radius is larger than 3 to 5 meters than the GPS pings were.
Now is this to the east of Interstate 95?
It is.
And I know that our map has zoomed in a little bit. With this, though, area that I have stopped, is that just south of Airport Road?
Yes.
So just to give context, that if we were to go a little bit further north, that would be Airport Road, and then to the left, that would be Jacksonville Airport?
Correct.
So I have paused it now at 1:32. Is it fair to say that the last entry point would be 12/19/2018, 11:39:29?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, does the GPS then go off?
Yes, there's no more records for the rest of the day from Google.
And again, what are the factors that could indicate why there, after 11:39:29 a.m., there's no further Google location information for 12/19/18?
The phone is either in the middle of nowhere, or the device was turned off, or the locations were deleted.
So you said either the device was turned off or it was deleted.
Correct.
Now, did you also create a map for December the 20th of 2018?
I did.
Bear with me 1 second. That one I did not see uploaded. Make sure. Give me 1 second, and I need to upload the second one. Oh, you did not upload the 20th. And I will take off from the viewing. Only clip one on. Yeah, just have a moment, Your Honor. I apologize for the delay. Give me a moment. I apologize, Your Honor. I'm just going to save a different manner, and then I'll speak with defense, Your Honor, so I can get that going and not delay further. Yeah, do you? Because now my internet's not working.
Council, just update the court on the difficulty we're having.
I can assume.
Yes, sir. I think, just have a second.
Sure.
Because I think both defense and the state would like to give the jury 5 minutes just to see if we can get this up. We apologize.
No, it's fine. Technology gets the best of us.
Yes, sir.
All right, members of the jury, it's 9:45. Rather than have you sit there in silence, I'll let you go back to the jury room and talk about everything but this case. Please remember, don't discuss the case among yourselves. Don't do any independent research, and we'll call you back out here in a few moments.
My link is expired. My link is this. I don't know why it doesn't. I think it only has 19. No, we need to play it. Let me see it.
The jury's outside our presence. Mr. Nestor, if you wish, you could, you're more than welcome to get some steps in if you would like.
I'm okay right now. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, y'all. What's up, real deal? Ooh, wait, good morning, y'all. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, I don't feel to sleep. Good morning, y'all. What? Let me see. Let me go see what he said at the end right here. Right here, yeah. How y'all doing this morning? Y'all know what? He just told us something. He just gave us some information about the cell phone towers, y'all. I didn't know. Another. Let me see, y'all. Hold on. What you doing today? I'm glad. Okay, hold on, God. I just messed up. What you doing? Okay, I'm trying to find. Hold on, y'all. I got to find out where that thing went to. Hold on. Okay. Okay, y'all. Let me find some cat. Late, I was asleep. I don't mess the thing up right now, y'all. I wanted to talk about. Come on, golly, how did I mess this up? Hold on. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry about that. I was so tired. I'm not tired. I was just so. Ooh. Let me see. Murder child. First course. Okay, we'll go to first. Hold on, y'all. Let me connect y'all back to this one because I had not got disconnected. So we'll go here. We're gonna go to another one. We're gonna go right. I'm gonna get off of here from this one and go over into this news. Hold on. There's another news doing this also. Um, y'all, I'm sorry. I hadn't fell asleep. God, leave. My son must have knew I was asleep. Uh, he just told me, gave me some information about the cell phone. That I didn't even know about the cell phone. He just gave us some information about the cell phones that I didn't even know about how you can track a person location through Google. See, he just gave me some information. I didn't even know. I was amazed. It's so much people can do with your. So much these folks can do. Catch up with you. Hold on, y'all. Let me see what's I got on him. Um, yeah, he gave us some information about. Yeah, anonymous. But you know what? He just gave us some information that I didn't even know about that cell phone. So what's the name must had an Android because she trying see when I be trying to listen to what I be trying to listen to what the state's saying as the reason, you know, and the reason why they asked that question about the cell phone. I was trying to I be trying to listen to the questions they be asking. Now let me push it back a little bit. I know they ain't going on no long break. Yeah, that wasn't snoring, was that? Cause I'm trying to play like I wasn't sleep. I wasn't snoring. So tired, but I wanted to do this live with y'all. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wasn't live, was that? Flawless and anonymous. I wasn't loud snoring, was I? Ooh, wait. Y'all got to hear. Nothing in my wall. Let me take it back so I can find out what they were saying. The last word they said, God, how long I been asleep? Let me fix something. Let's see something good. Excuse me. Excuse me, guys. They getting ready to come back. I found us another station to watch this on also. I don't see it. Why they ain't came back? Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's a squirrel in my wall. I don't like that. That don't sound right. How long they been Oh, they can ready to come back. I want to go back right here to this. But my phone ain't saying that. What happened?
Let's go back on the record. 19 CF 7518, State v. Johnathan Quiles. I do have counsel of the state defense, Mr. Quiles present. My understanding is we're ready to get back and going. Just from a scheduling standpoint, at this point, what I'm probably going to do is just use this as a mid-morning break. I've had the bailiffs inform the jury of that fact. They're okay with that. and we'll just take an earlier lunch break than we have the past week and a half. So given that timeline state, I doubt I'll get to those Williamer witnesses prior to the lunch break. That's just letting you know for scheduling purposes. Given that when you get people here, probably makes sense given the testimony and rather than breaking it up. So is that a huge issue for you guys?
Oh, yes, whatever's fine, Ryan.
Is that okay with you guys? Yes, sir. Okay, so I still have Mr. Nestor on the stand. Are we ready to proceed with the testimony?
I'm sorry for the delay again.
No, you're fine, but we're ready for the jury to come back?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring the jury back in, please.
I know they ain't about to put this same man on him.
Internet gods are against me right now.
They need to come on. They wasting time. That's why I fell asleep.
Your Honor, the jury reenters the court.
Members of the jury, welcome back. You guys may have a seat. Sorry for the delay. Just technology sometimes gets the best of all of us. I think the bailiff informed you guys of this, but so I'll use that as our mid-morning break, but I will take an earlier lunch break to accommodate you guys. We typically been going about an hour and a half hour 45 at most. I can't imagine going past that for today. Before we take our lunch break, we'll see how the witnesses shake out, but I'm not going to let you guys go past that. Before we take a break, and the parties are aware of that as well. So with that said, we'll continue with the state's directive of Mr. Nestor. And with that said, Ms. French, you may inquire. You're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry for the delay, Mr. Nestor. Did you create a map as well of the Google location data for December the 20th, 2018?
I did.
And were you tasked and asked to do the entire day of December 20th, 2018?
Yeah, I don't know why it went blank.
Now, from going
That's
from
them.
11:40 a.m. on December 19th, do you recall the approximate time that the first Google location data appeared
Why they cover it?
on this December 20th map?
Around 4 p.m.
And I have it paused here right where we're getting started. When you say around the 4 p.m. Oh, I'm so sorry.
She's going to fix that for you guys. But thank you for notifying me. You did exactly what you're supposed to do. You guys can see it now? All right.
Oh.
If you don't have it, raise your hand. Okay, no hands raised. They have it. Ms. French, go ahead.
And thank you, everyone. And so looking at your screen, Mr. Nestor, you said approximately the 4 p.m. Would that be the 16:04:28, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's just a military time?
Correct.
Now, in regards to this particular map, again, are we looking at Google location data off of Bush? Is it road or front? What's the full?
Bush Drive.
Bush Drive. Thank you, sir. And is that where then the next Google data had picked up?
Correct.
Now, what bridge would we be going over at the 16:24:37 time frame? And I've paused it at 20 seconds within the video.
I do not know actually what bridge that would be.
All right, I'll discuss that later, Detective Abbott.
Oh, they about to spot his location, y'all.
I'm gonna pause it here at 52 seconds, Mr. Nestor. Is this next data then based upon the fact that this person is located at that 10268 Beach Boulevard location?
Yes, ma'am.
And does this data ping at this location for a period of time indicating that the phone was located there?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the data that we have just been observing here on this 1220 map, what subcategory did this data come from?
I believe it was a mix between the Wi-Fi and GPS. Currently, we're looking, I believe, still at the GPS.
Thank you, Mr. Nestor.
See, can we find him on this map, y'all? There you go. Down. They right here. They on this spot. They don't spot him.
Mr. Nestor, are you familiar what's located at this Beach Boulevard address?
I believe it's the gun gallery.
Thank you, sir. Now, Mr. Nestor, when we get into this larger, lighter color red, what does it indicate, sir? And I've paused it at 1 minute and 54 seconds.
Just indicates that the record at that time, Google had a larger display radius than the other display radiuses that they had.
So as that circle enlarges, does that mean then that the radius of the location is wider?
Correct.
Wider beyond that 3 to 5 millimeters?
Correct.
I think you have the address now indicated at 528 Trout River Drive. Is that accurate around the 17? And I've paused it at 2 minutes and 13 seconds, 17:43:51.
That's correct.
Minnie, go get in your bed. Go get in the bed, Minnie. Sorry about that, y'all. My dog. So I wonder what is she? She's pointing at the area Quiles was in. The location. Come on now, they got to do better. This prosecutor ain't got nothing on Henry Thinking prosecutor.
Now, Mr. Nestor, just want to go back 1 second to the white box. In this particular box, it states between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Was that the only data available, or were you asked to do up to 7 p.m.?
For this map, I believe after 7 p.m. there was no more data on the 20th.
So just to recap, December the 19th, 2018 had data between approximately 11:15 and 11:40, with that about 25 minutes worth.
Correct.
And then on 12/20/2018, there was approximately 3 hours of data available.
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Nestor, were you also then provided the Google records associated with an Ayanna Sawyer?
I was.
And I know that you had mentioned earlier that it's not related to a number, it's related to an email. And did you look at both emails associated with IS, Sawyer Ayanna and foreign Yana?
I did.
And for record purposes, on the second, Yana is with 2 N's, ma'am, for record purposes. Now, did IS have an Android type phone?
No, I believe she had an iPhone.
Now, based upon her having an iPhone, was there any Google data located within those from those 2 email accounts?
There was not.
Now, were you also then provided cell records associated with IS?
I was.
And was that number 904-293-5139?
That's correct.
And were you asked to map the areas of location of where her phone was located between 1219 and beyond?
Correct. I was.
Okay. And were you able to locate any data from the cell phone records from 12/19/2018?
There were 2 phone calls that connected to cell towers in the early mornings, I think around 7 a.m. And they pinged on a tower off of Arlington, over in the Arlington area.
And from those early morning 2 phone calls around the 7 a.m. time frame, did that cell tower that pinged in Arlington, was that near the Terry Parker High School?
It was.
After that second early around 7 a.m. telephone call, was there any further what's commonly referred to as cell site data from those towers after that early morning second call around 7 a.m. on 12/19/2018?
There was not.
And that would also include 12/20/2018 and beyond?
Beyond.
Thank you, Mr. Nestor, and sorry for the delay again, and no further questions.
He just sitting there looking, knowing he need to tell what happened to that girl. That is not cute.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right. So you were asked to go through these phone records associated with Mr. Quiles, correct?
Correct.
All right. And to be clear, you said Google tracks your phone, whether it's by habits, location, buying habits, and that's all done through either assisted GPS, Wi-Fi, or cell towers. Do I have that correct?
Correct. The way they're using the Wi-Fi and the cell towers, however, is they're using a patented algorithm. They had to estimate the location using Wi-Fi endpoints and cell towers.
Okay. Now, and to be clear, they try to get it as accurate as possible
They do.
within, you said 3 to 5 meters, give or take.
The GPS ones are. The Wi-Fi ones are going to be a larger range, and the cell tower ones are going to be much broader.
Okay. And going back to what the state was showing you, you could almost do a pinpoint on some that are GPS, and the other shows that big red wide circle.
That's correct.
That's the difference between the two, whether it's Wi-Fi or cell tower versus an actual GPS locator. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate. Sometimes we've had GPS ones that are much larger. Google will like to tell you that things are 70% accurate. That's what they strive for.
Okay. Now, you stated on direct that you can't track the phone when it's off, though, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, would it be fair to say there's varying reasons as to why it would be off? Battery dies, someone turns it off, or as you stated, somebody clears the memory. Would be another reason why there's no location on the phone. Would that be accurate?
In the Google account, that's correct, yes.
Okay. And you said, already stated iPhones work very differently though, correct?
Only because iPhones aren't Android products. So in order for an iPhone to get Google Records, you would need to use something, let's say like Google Maps on your phone and have a Google account associated with that. So the reason we don't really get Google Records with iPhones is because there's no native Google applications on the phone. You have to add them, have a Google account, whereas Android is owned by Google. All the apps that are on that phone are Google products.
Okay.
I
And when you were
understand
showing that first map of December 19th of 2018, between 11:15 a.m. or thereabouts up through about 12:30-ish p.m. Okay, you remember that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, he was at Ace Pick Apart and then he left, correct?
Correct.
Now, when he left, he went up by the airport, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Where he went specifically, he was over by Lowe's. There's an auto parts store. There's a range of varying shops in that area, correct?
There is.
Okay. Now, when you get up to that area, it didn't have a direct pinpoint as to which business he went in or anything like that. It just showed he was in the parking lot of all of those businesses up by the airport, correct?
That's correct. However, in the Google records, so we don't only just get location history back, we also get, if they have browser history, search history. That particular time, he did search directions to a location. I believe it was Fastenal. I think it's a fastener shop or something that's up in that area.
Right. And do you even know what Fastenal is?
I believe it's like a fastener company. I'm not familiar with them.
Not familiar with it.
No.
So you don't know if they supply parts for businesses and things of that nature as well, do you?
I do not.
All right. So given that he went to Fastenal, you don't know if he was directed by his employer from Ace Pick Apart to go up there to pick up parts then, do you?
Wow. So that's where he went.
So he goes up there, and then at some point, correct me if I'm wrong, that's where the phone shuts off, correct?
That's a possibility.
Okay.
Again, can't definitively confirm that.
Right. All you know is it quits tracking.
That's correct.
All right. So you don't know if his phone died?
Nope.
You don't know if it got blanked or anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Now, and it was your testimony that it didn't come back on until the next day?
As far as the Google records show, there was no Google records the rest of the day on the 19th.
Okay. Now, did you analyze his phone or did you just download this off of Google?
I was given these records from the detective who got them from Google. They were downloaded.
They were downloaded from Google.
Correct.
Okay. But you have no idea whether or not they did a phone dump off of his phone.
I am aware they did a phone dump, but I did not.
Did you analyze it?
No, I did not.
Why?
I wasn't the original analyst that worked on this case back in 2018. I assisted with the missing persons part of the investigation, but the other analyst that did work that investigation, she's no longer with the agency. So I was asked to come in and look at the Google records specifically.
Okay. And then after reviewing those records, create this map that you provided for the court.
That's correct.
All right. So then the next day he pops up on Bush Drive, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's also on the north side as well, correct?
That is.
All right. Up in the area of the Budweiser plant, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. I believe that's where it's around.
Okay. And then you track him from up there off of Bush Drive and he goes down to Beach Boulevard, correct?
That's correct.
To the gun range.
That's correct.
And then he ends up over in the area of Trout River and then Terry Parker, right?
Yeah, I believe it was more towards like Girvan Road, or
I'm sorry?
I think it was more towards Girvan Road originally, and then maybe towards Arlington after that.
Okay. And this is a full day after IS is supposed to have been missing, right?
Correct.
All right. So you don't know if he was over there meeting with family or coordinating anything or what? You just tracking where he went?
That's correct.
All right. Now, The calls that you said were made on 12/19 of 2018 at 7 a.m. from IS's phone, that being the 904-293-5139, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you search who those calls were made to?
I did not.
Okay. Are you aware they were made to her grandmother?
I was not.
Okay. You just know that 2 calls were made on the morning of 12/19 of 2018.
Yes, sir.
Were you aware they were made to the same person who owns the account for that phone?
I was not.
He said he wasn't.
Would it be fair to say you're limited just by the information that you're given, then?
That's correct.
And you're only given enough information that the lead detective has given you then?
That's correct.
All right. So it's hard to give a complete analysis if you aren't given the full information then, isn't it?
That depends on the case. I think, the detective gives me enough information that I need to know to plot the locations on the map. My job is to accurately display those locations without I don't have any bias as to where he goes or what locations they show. My analysis is just to show that the records that we got from Google are accurately mapped as we received them.
Okay. But you don't know how the phone was used and in what context, or who he was calling, who he was texting, or anything else?
No, sir.
You also don't know what Google searches he did or where he went, do you?
I know Google searches that he made that are in his Google account records
Okay.
for the time frame that we were given.
And based on that, you know he did a Google search to go to the gun range, right?
I do.
Okay. And that was done before he went to the gun range, obviously, right?
Correct. He needed directions.
What?
Right.
You gonna fit to the gun range?
So all that was displayed in there. Accurate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. May I have a second with counsel, Your Honor?
What?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
No further from the state.
Man, I'm been
Mr.
to
Nestor,
the
good to see you, sir.
gun
Enjoy the
range.
rest of your day.
Very much.
You can call your next witness.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. The state would next call Nicholas Q2.
They done went to the gun range for this girl. He and sitting there like ain't nothing happened. Wow.
Mr. Kutu, good morning to you, sir. Watch your step as you come forward. If you need a glass or water, let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you.
All right. Thank you.
Only thing I ask, if there's an objection made during the course of your testimony, just pause, let me roll on the objection, we'll go from there. And you can adjust the microphone
Okay.
as you deem necessary.
Thank
With that said, state your name, quiet, you're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself and spell your last name, please.
My name is Nicholas Coutu, C-O-U-T-U.
What is your occupation?
I am a crime laboratory analyst in the biology section at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
As Florida Department of Law Enforcement, commonly referred to as FDLE.
Yes, that's correct.
How long have you been employed with FDLE?
Since August of 2015.
And I think you stated you were a crime laboratory analyst in the biology division.
Yes.
And what are your duties and responsibilities as being an analyst in the biology division?
I will examine items of evidence that are submitted to the laboratory for the possible presence of bodily fluids such as semen, saliva, blood, as well as hairs, and then do STR DNA testing on these items of evidence, perform statistical calculations, and testify to these results as necessary.
Could you please tell us about your educational background?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Microbiology and Cell Sciences from the University of Florida.
prior to being an analyst with FDLE, did you have any prior experience in the analysis involving DNA?
No, I was first hired as a forensic technologist and then was promoted to a crime laboratory analyst at FDLE.
Now, does FDLE, going from that forensic technologist to a crime laboratory analyst, is there an intensive in-house training program?
Yes, the crime laboratory analyst training program at FDLE is a rigorous 2-part training program. It took approximately a year and a half to complete. The first portion consists of academic readings, written exams, oral exams, and practicing serological techniques and DNA testing techniques on training samples. And the second phase was completed after completing supervised casework in which I analyzed evidence that was submitted to the laboratory under the direct supervision of a qualified analyst.
Have you testified before in giving your opinion regarding the field of DNA testing, analyzing, comparing, and identifying?
Yes, about 15 times.
And have you testified here locally in Duval County before?
Yes.
What is DNA?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is found in every cell of the human body with the exception of mature red blood cells. Half is inherited from your mother, half is inherited from your father. And it contains the genetic blueprint that controls your body's functions, but also makes you human and makes you unique. And no two individuals have the same DNA with the exception of identical twins.
Oh, okay.
Now, I think you talked about that you do testing with STR. What is that?
STR DNA testing is the specific kind of testing that we conduct at FDLE. STR stands for short tandem repeat. Essentially, I analyze 24 specific regions of the DNA for my DNA testing. And these are what are referred to as short tandem repeats. These are regions of the DNA that have a particular pattern repeated so many times. The specific number of times that this pattern has been repeated is what's referred to as a DNA type for an individual at that region. So it's the collection of these particular DNA types for an individual that creates a DNA profile that's unique to that person. So in the same way that you have a social security number or a phone number, all of the individual numbers that comprise that phone number might not be unique, but it's that combination of all of them together that makes it unique to you.
And do you and your lab undergo proficiency testing?
Yes.
And what is that?
A proficiency test is a test that is purchased from an outside vendor to test and assess my knowledge and my skills in terms of doing DNA testing or serological testing. I complete this twice a year per FBI accreditation requirements.
And does also FDLE, what do they do for quality assurances within the lab?
For quality assurance, there's a number of measures that we'll take with items of evidence. I'll only work one item of evidence at a time. I have a variety of personal protective equipment, such as gloves that I change frequently, a face mask, hairnet, lab coat. I'll thoroughly clean my area prior to working an item and as well as after working that item before moving on to something else, only having one tube open at a time. We also have controls so that we can track the possibility of any sort of contamination that might occur, that we're getting expected results from the reactions and the testing that we're performing, and then a whole entire review process as well throughout the testing.
Is FDLE accredited?
Yes, FDLE has been accredited since 1990. Most recently, we received our reaccreditation this year in 2023 from the American National Standards Institute National Accreditation Board.
What are population frequencies?
Population frequencies would refer to the frequency of those DNA types, or they're also called alleles, for particular individuals within a population. So how common or how uncommon those particular DNA types are that you've inherited from your mother or father.
What are the types of items that can be tested generally for DNA? A couple categories.
Generally, most things can be submitted to DNA for DNA testing at FDLE. We work a variety of swabs from surfaces or items. We will take in items of evidence that are submitted, and then we'll swab them ourselves or do visual examinations for any possible staining and test those. There are a few restrictions within the evidence submission manual at FDLE that restrict what items are submitted. These can include things like stomach contents, urine, fecal material. Anything of that nature would require supervisor approval prior to being examined within our laboratory system.
Now, when you're talking about most things, could that also be in regards to proving paternity?
Yes, in terms of paternity cases, we can get cheek swabs, also known as buccal swabs, from an individual, from the parents and from the child. If this is a case of a miscarriage or a possible abortion, then there are fetal remains that can be submitted, and paternity testing can be conducted in that manner as well.
Now, are there a variety of results that can be obtained from DNA testing?
Yes.
Tell us about some of those.
So the types of results that I can obtain from my DNA testing, I can either obtain no results, I can obtain limited results to where I have some DNA types present, but not in a sufficient amount that I can make any sort of determination as to the number of contributors in those results, so I can't make comparisons. Essentially, they're uninterpretable if it's limited. DNA results can be single source or having originated from one person. I can either obtain DNA types at each of the 24 regions I've tested for that individual, which would be a complete profile. If I'm unsuccessful and don't have complete DNA types at every single region, that's what's referred to as a partial profile.
This case.
If there are DNA results that are consistent with having originated from more than one contributor, that's referred to as a mixture. I can then assess and try to determine the number of contributors in that mixture. And then if there are simply too many contributors for me to be able to successfully identify how many people might be present, that also falls in the category of being uninterpretable, and that's known as a complex mixture that I'm no longer able to interpret.
Now, Mr. Cuatro, did you receive evidence involving kind of a mixture of situations, a sexual assault and also a death investigation of IS, identified in 3 unique FDLE numbers that were cross-referenced: 2018-040, 2811, 2019 040486, and 2019 0400001.
That is correct.
When I say cross-reference, does that just mean that they are related in some form or fashion with the police?
Yes, they were submitted as different case numbers, but they're all related to the same offense usually.
And would your casework been between the timeframes of 2019 and 2000, and as recent as this year?
I believe that's correct.
And I'm going to work a little bit backwards with you. In regards to this case, I'm going to start with the last submission that you received. That would have been approximately of August of 2023 when you made your opinions. Do you recall that, Mr. Cuatro?
Yes, I do have the report in front of me.
And did you receive two items to review during that submission?
Yes, the submission contained packaging that had multiple bras that were a tan bra with lace, and a red bra, as well as a separate package that contained just a blue bra that was submitted for analysis.
So in total, you received 4 bras. Is that fair to say? In this submission, would that have been in actually July of 2023 when FDLE received these items?
That is correct.
Now, when you commence your analysis of these items, do you do a visual observation first? Or do you go to making cuttings or submitting into the DNA STR program? Tell us about that.
So for an article of clothing such as this, I would open the packaging, conduct a visual examination, as you said. So I'll take notes just of general observations of if there is staining, what kind of condition the clothing is in, describing it, marking any tags, any identifying features that are unique to the clothing that I'll be able to recognize later on. I then will conduct any possible serological testing on some stains. For example, serology being the identification of bodily fluids. So if there is, for example, red-brown staining that's consistent with possibly being blood, I can do a presumptive test to see if there are chemical indications for blood. Otherwise, I would proceed with taking a sample from my STR DNA testing process, in which case for these items, I would typically take a cutting from within inside each cup, as well as a general swabbing from the inside of the bra, as well as the clasp area from each.
And in regards to all four of these items, were you able to ascertain any DNA that was interpretable?
Let me refresh myself. No. From the tan bra with lace, this item failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA to proceed with my DNA testing, so it didn't go further with the process to even try to develop DNA results. For the red bra, no DNA results were obtained. For the tan bra, there were limited DNA results. However, due to the limited nature of the DNA results, this data was not interpretable. And for the blue bra, this item failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process.
Now, Mr. Cuatro, if items were found in a landfill, how could that affect the ability for DNA to potentially be a sufficiency requirement for testing?
There are a variety of factors that affect the persistence of DNA. Some of these could include whether or not there are environmental factors, such as being exposed to rain that could potentially wash something away. If there was exposure to sunlight that has UV radiation, which can damage and degrade the DNA. There could be the possibility of being exposed to components such as humic acid in soil, which can affect our DNA testing, as well as any sort of bacterial growth or chemical components of other things that might degrade the DNA or inhibit our testing process later down the road.
So that kind of brings up my next question. You had talked about that touch DNA. What does that mean, touch DNA?
So touch DNA would refer to DNA that is transferred from handling or touching an item, typically through friction of having touched that surface.
Now, for example purposes, if I'm here and I have both of my hands, one on the right, one on the left, and I'm gripping this podium as I'm talking to you, let's say I go and I sit back down in my chair, a crime scene detective then comes back, takes the swab, swabs the right side, swabs the left side. Does that mean that you would have 100% enough DNA to do DNA testing from that swab?
No, it's possible that there would be DNA left behind in appreciable amounts that I would get results. It's also possible that there would not be enough DNA left behind for me to get interpretable results from that. There's a number of factors that come into play. For example, how long you've been in contact with that item, how much friction was involved in the contact of either a brief touch or more vigorous handling of an item, if it's porous versus non-porous, and if you had just recently washed your hands prior to touching it. All of those things can affect how much DNA is eventually transferred and left behind.
And of course, I've given that example with me just standing here under a roof inside of a building. And I think that you had then explained that something out in the elements, there's a lot more factors that goes into whether the DNA is degraded or not degraded. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Now, could also that include if someone came back behind me and took some cleaning material with a paper towel and wiped down these areas, is the likelihood then of getting my DNA on this podium, has it drastically decreased?
Yes, if you were to clean a surface, even just manually wiping it, that would also diminish the DNA results or the amount of DNA that would be left behind.
All right, thank you, sir. I think that kind of helps us as we move on. So again, just kind of moving backwards, did you receive a handgun and 2 magazines in another submission that you had received, appears in what, January of 2019? Or actually, no, these items you would have received in May of 2019. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I did receive a handgun and 2 magazines in May of 2019, and that should be part of the July 31st, 2019 report.
Now, and we'll talk about it in just a moment, but by this time frame, in May of 2019, had there been known standards submitted to FDLE?
I would have to verify.
Yes, sir. Please take your time. I'm sorry, that would have been from April of 2023. Is that when you received some known standards as well?
Yes, so for this particular case, in terms of submissions, the 2019-040-0486, at that time, when I was reporting results for the handgun and 2 magazines, there were no buccal swabs or cheek swabs that were submitted in this case. There were buccal swabs from cross-referenced cases available. And then the first set of buccal swabs or cheek swabs that were submitted in this case were April of 2023, as you said.
Because I think overall, and tell me if I'm wrong, if you need to refer to your record to help refresh your recollection, overall, did you obtain, and just overall the pendency of the casework that you did you receive a known standard from a Stevie Griffin?
Yes.
Did you receive a known standard from a Kim Mobley?
Yes.
Did you receive a known standard from a Samaya Mobley?
Yes.
Did you receive a known standard from a Kyrie Mobley?
Yes.
And then again, we'll talk about it last. Back in 2018, did you receive a known standard part of a sex kit of an Ayanna Sawyer?
Yes.
And then in January of 2019, did you receive known standards of a Kamar Humphrey and a Johnathan Quiles?
The buccal swabs from Johnathan Quiles were submitted in January of 2019, and the buccal swabs from Kamar Humphrey were submitted in November of 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Coutu. So, and we'll get back to that April submission in just a moment. Let's talk about the handgun from July of 2019. What were you asked to do with the handgun and the 2 magazines, sir?
To assess it again for any possible staining, as well as any DNA profiles that could be generated from swabbing that item.
Now, did you do a visual inspection as well on the handgun and the 2 magazines?
Yes.
And in regards to the handgun, did you notice anything abnormal in your visual inspection?
Let me refer to my case notes.
Come on now, get organized, baby.
In my visual examination of the firearm, there was brownish staining that was observed along the slide, the frame, and beneath the barrel of the firearm. I was then able to conduct a presumptive test to try and identify the chemical indications of blood, and these were negative, so there were no chemical indications for the possible presence of blood.
What? He
This was
must use
completed by doing the
Clorox too.
chemical color change test. I took a small rubbing of each area of staining, and then through the application of 3 different chemicals, waited to see if there was a color change to a pink coloration, and if there was, that would be chemical indications. However, that was not the case here, so there were no chemical indications for the possible presence of blood, and there were no apparent stains noted on either of the magazines that were submitted in the same item.
Okay, thank you for that. And then in regards to the actual DNA testing of the handgun, can you tell us about those results, please, sir?
For the swabbing from the handgun, this sample failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR-DNA testing process. From the first magazine, which I had labeled magazine A, a complete profile consistent with a male individual was obtained from item 14, magazine A. I was then able to make comparisons to the buccal swabs I had at the time, which were from Ayanna Sawyer, Kamar Humphrey, and Johnathan Quiles, each of whom were excluded as the source of the DNA profile on this final magazine. And for the second magazine, which I had labeled magazine B, a sample was taken, and this sample failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process.
Now, when you received those additional known standards in 2023, did you then go back and compare them to this male standard? Because I believe 2 out of the 4 were males that were submitted to you after the fact to magazine A.
Yes, I did make subsequent comparisons.
I believe he used Clorox, y'all. What's up, Joanne?
My later comparisons show that Stevie Griffin, Kim Mobley, Samaya Mobley, and Kyrie Mobley are all excluded as contributors to the DNA profile obtained from magazine A.
Now, when you received these items, did they come with already DNA touch swabs, or did you actually do the swabs yourself?
I swabbed the firearm myself.
And what areas would you have swabbed the firearm?
In this instance, I believe it was a general swabbing of the entire firearm, avoiding the areas of brownish staining. Actually, no, it was a general swabbing from the entire outer surface.
And in regards to the firearm and the 2 magazines, do you also make your own markings on those items so that later on you can verify that those are the items you tested?
Yes, I'll do that with any item of evidence submitted to the laboratory. So the outer packaging will have my seals with initials as well as my markings, in addition to the items themselves.
I'm showing you State's Evidence 37. Do you recognize it? You can take a moment and look at it.
Yes, I do.
Now, those items that we were just talking about.
Yes, these are.
Now, there's also another small vanilla envelope. Do you recognize it?
I do not recognize
Okay,
this.
so that's not associated with anything you did.
No, the case number is the same, but it does not bear my markings.
So that would be associated with Laura Draga, who also did some testing on the gun.
Yes, that must have been from the firearms section, from subsequent analysis.
I don't understand why they ain't getting his DNA. He had to use Clorox. Something ain't right, y'all. They ain't got none of their kinfolk DNA. I don't believe that.
I apologize. I messed up in my order, so I'll get it straight, the rest of them, but this is a little bit out of order. So in April of 2023, did you also receive, in regards to those 4 known standards, a swab from a plastic bottle identified as Dong Quai?
Yes.
And were you asked to do DNA analysis of that swab?
Yes, the swab had actually been previously submitted, so that's why as part of that report, it was not re-examined, but comparisons were still made to those buccal swabs that were submitted.
Now, in regards to the 7 known standards that we have at this time, were you able to identify anyone to the swab of the Dong Quai bottle?
Yes, I believe that item had previously been reported as a mixture consistent with two individuals. And so from any comparisons I had been able to make, everyone had been excluded with the exception of Kim Mobley, who was included as a possible contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained from that item. The observed mixed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample had originated from Kim Mobley and an unrelated individual than from 2 unrelated individuals.
Mr. Cuatro, is it fair to say that there is around 7 billion people in the world?
I believe about that, probably more.
So 700 billion, though, is way greater than the known population of our planet.
Yes, this number is not directly linked to the amount of people on the planet, but it is a much larger number than the current population. That is correct.
Next, sir, drawing your attention to the time frame of February 2019, March 2019, and April 2019, did you receive another series of items in this particular 3 cases that you did work on?
Yes.
I believe there were 9 item numbers associated with this submission overall.
Yes, that's correct.
And could you tell us what each item is, and then just go ahead and tell us your findings for each one, please, sir?
Sure, I will go down the list. So for that report, which encompasses those 3 submissions, as you had mentioned, there was a pink bra. This pink bra failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. And due to the limited nature of the DNA results obtained from this item, this data was not interpretable. And then subsequently we have pink and black underwear that was submitted. Similarly, this item failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. It also failed to give chemical indications for the presence of semen. and 2 separate samples were taken, one from the waistband, I believe, and then one from the crotch as well. Both of these samples failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process. Then there was a red and purple bra submitted. This item failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. And the DNA results obtained from this item demonstrated the presence of a mixture. However, due to the limited nature of the mixture that was obtained, this data is not interpretable. And then there was another pink bra, which was FDLE item 8.
And just to also, in regards to the first pink bra, was that then agency number 8-1 for the first pink bra?
No, that would have been agency number 9-2.
Oh, I'm sorry, under FDLE item number 5. Thank you.
Yes. So then this pink bra for the results I'm about to give was FDLE item 8 or agency exhibit number 8-1. So for this item, it also failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood, and no DNA results were obtained from this item. For the pink bra, that is FDLE item 9 or the agency exhibit number 8-2. This item failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. And the item failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process. And then there was an electric saw that was submitted. This saw failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. For the rain suit, which was a pair of jacket and pants, this item failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. For item 12, which is a swab from a plastic bottle, noted as Dong Quay.
I think we had talked about that one already.
We did, yes, I apologize. That was a mixture of 2 donors.
Came back ultimately as 1 male and 1 female, and the female came back to Kim Mobley, correct?
Yes, the female contributor was consistent with Kim Mobley's DNA profile.
All right, thank you, sir.
And for item 13, this was a swab from plastic bottle indicated as parsley. However, due to the limited nature of the DNA results obtained from this item, this data was not interpretable.
Mr. Cucci, I'm going to go ahead and just show you a couple of items. You can please look at states 44 for a moment.
Yes, I do recognize this.
And is this FDLE item number 5 that you had mentioned as evidence 9-2 for JSO purposes that you just discussed regarding your results?
Yes, I recognize the unique yellow FDLE barcode, as well as my markings, my seal and initials on the outer packaging, as well as my markings on the item itself.
And there was not any DNA results interpretable on this particular item?
No, there were limited results that were obtained, so they were not interpretable.
Now, you also had mentioned about the touch DNA swab from the parsley and the Don Quay. If you can just take a moment here and look at states 53 and 52.
Yes, I recognize these as well for the same reasonings. I can see my markings on the outer packaging, the unique FDLE case number and item number, as well as on the internal packaging, my markings as well for that case.
And are those 52 and 53, in fact, the swabs of the Don Quay and the parsley bottles?
Yes.
Now, in states 55, 56, 57, and 54, are these known standards that you had received in this case? We'll start with states 54. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And is it a known standard?
Yes, these are buccal swabs from Samaya Mobley.
All right. And then in states 55, is it a known standard?
Yes, I do recognize these, and they are buccal swabs that were submitted for Kim Mobley.
And then if you could please look at states 56.
These are buccal swabs submitted for Kyrie Mobley.
And do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then lastly, in states 57, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
And are they as well a known standard of an individual?
Yes, these are buccal swabs that were submitted for Stevie Griffin.
And next I'm showing you states 61. Do you recognize it? I know you have to just orient yourself with it.
Yes, I do.
And in state 61, the known DNA standard of Johnathan Quiles.
Yes.
All right, may the witness stand up to look at the items here. Okay. Mr. Cuatro, you recognize state 62 A and B. Take a moment to orient yourself. Do you recognize state 62 A and B?
Yes, I do.
And is this the rain suit that you had mentioned earlier in regards to the submission?
Yes, it is.
And I believe you stated that the rain suit did not test positive for blood, a presumptive test. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And after you did that, did you do any further DNA testing on these items?
I don't believe there was any additional testing on those items.
Your Honor, I have a couple more questions for Mr. Cuatro. Based upon the items, may we step down in front of the jury? Now, Mr. Cuatro, the reason why I had you step down, are there a variety of circles-esque markings on each of these items, frontwards and backwards?
Yes.
Did you make this?
Yes,
Can you describe to the jury why?
So these are either brownish, reddish brown stain, gray stain that might be indicative of some sort of an old blood. The possible presence of blood from any of these, as well as the rain jacket. So I would say rubbings of each of the areas that were served my chemical color change test, where I added color change that was indicative of chemical presence of blood, and these were all negative on my test. So there's no further analysis conducted on either of these.
Thank you, sir. Now, Mr. Cuatro, if the fact that that's a rain suit, and if someone wore that while it was raining, could that affect the ability for the blood, the DNA, to be degraded?
The rain could potentially wash away some of the chemical indications. However, usually when there's a negative result, it could either be due to a low concentration of the chemicals that we're looking for, or because simply there was no blood that was present to begin with in the stain.
So there's a possibility of reasons why something may or may not have blood on them.
Correct. It might either not be blood, or if it was blood, it was diluted or somehow degraded to the point that it was under our sensitivity thresholds for detection with our testing.
And Mr. Cuatro, again, going in a backward order, did you receive a submission as well involving items from January of 2019 and February of 2019?
Yes.
And I believe in total, did you receive 9 items? And I believe 5 of them were actually part of one packaging, but ultimately 9 items of testing.
So there were 8 items. Based on the report, there's just one line that says bras because there were 4 items submitted, or 5 items submitted within that item. So in total, 8 items
Thank you for that
encompassing in that report.
I'm sorry, I talked over. Thank you for that clarification. All right, so the first item you received was a piece of paper with apparent blood. Can you tell us, and that was FDI number 1, agency exhibit number 1-4. Can you tell us about that item and your analysis?
Yes, for that item, it did give chemical indications for the presence of blood. And a complete DNA profile consistent with a female individual was obtained from this item. Again, at the time, the comparisons I had to make were from Ayanna Sawyer, Johnathan Quiles, and Kamar Humphrey, all of whom were excluded as the source of this DNA profile.
And Mr. Cuatro, later after receiving additional known standards, did you compare them as well?
Yes, I did.
And what were your findings, sir?
These individuals were also excluded, which would be Stevie Griffin, Kim Mobley, Samaya Mobley, and Kyrie Mobley as being the source of this DNA profile.
So all of the known standards that you have received up to now have excluded that female profile.
Yes, I did not receive any buccal swabs that matched the female profile from that apparent blood stain.
And next, did you receive an FDI item number 2, agency exhibit -6-1, a pair of underwear?
Yes, I did.
And what were your findings?
This item failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood. And again, 2 samples were taken from this item, one from the crotch and one from a swabbing of the waistband. The crotch failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process, and no DNA results were obtained from the swabbing of the item.
Next, and FDLE number 3, agency exhibit 6-2 is a leopard print bra. What were your findings?
This item failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process.
And then in that grouping of 5 items, were they all 5 items bras?
Yes.
Did they include a tan bra,
Yes.
a pink bra, a black bra, a black and pink bra, and a burgundy bra?
Yes.
Now, in reference to the tan bra, what were your findings?
The DNA results obtained from the tan bra demonstrated the presence of a mixture. However, due to the limited nature of the mixture, this data was not interpretable.
Then in reference, I think your findings were similar in nature for the pink bra, the black bra, and the black and pink bra.
Yes, for these items, limited DNA results were obtained. Therefore, the data was not interpretable. And in particular for items, the pink bra and the black bra, which would be FDLE items 4.2 and 4.3, they also failed to give chemical indications for the presence of blood.
And then lastly, in the submission, 4.5, 6-3, the burgundy bra, what were your findings?
This item failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for the STR DNA testing process.
Showing you states 42, do you recognize it?
Yes.
And is that one of the items that we just discussed? Is it FDLE number 3?
It's FDLE number 2. It
Number
was
2, I apologize.
the underwear that was submitted.
And then agency 6-1?
Yes.
And I believe you stated that there were not enough DNA for testing?
For the crotch of the underwear, it failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of DNA for STR DNA testing, and for a swabbing taken from the underwear, there were no DNA results obtained.
And looking at states 42, do we also see the circles of area just like you did with the rain suit. It states 62A and B.
Yes, there are a variety of areas that I have circled of staining that were tested and all proved to be negative or failed to give chemical indications for the possible presence of blood.
Next, I'm showing what's a composite, which is states 43A, B, and C. And it's FDLE number 19, and I forgot to show this to you earlier, and I apologize for that, Mr. Q2. Were these the last part of the last three brawls that you had received?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Q2, going all the way back to when your first submission was received, was that in May of 2018?
Specifically for which case?
That would have been 2018-0402-811.
Yes, the first submission in that case was May 24th of 2018.
And did you receive in that submission an item labeled sexual assault evidence kit from Ayanna Sawyer?
Yes.
And were there items contained within that package?
Yes, the sexual assault evidence kit contained buccal swabs from Ayanna Sawyer, as well as vaginal swabs, labial swabs, swabs from the left neck, and underwear.
I'm showing you state's evidence 60. Please orient yourself. And is that the sexual assault kit that you received back in May of 2018?
Yes, this is.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it up here for the next line of questioning. So in regards to the sexual assault kit that you received, what was the first item that you reviewed?
The first item that was examined was the buccal swabs, and cuttings were taken from that item for the STR DNA testing process.
So let's talk about the buccal swabs first. Would that be the known standard of the individual who underwent the sexual assault examination?
Yes.
And were you able to complete a known full profile of the individual labeled as and mentioned as Ayanna Sawyer?
Yes, a complete DNA profile was obtained from this item.
Now, prior to the cuttings, did you receive 4 categories of swabs that you had indicated earlier?
Yes, so when the sex kit is initially opened, it's inventoried for what's inside, and then systematically, one by one, cuttings are taken or samples taken from each item.
And then in regards to the swabs from the left neck, were you able to do STR DNA analysis?
Yes.
And what did you opine?
This item demonstrated the presence of a mixture that was consistent with 3 donors, including at least 1 male contributor, and Ayanna Sawyer is expected to be a donor to this exhibit.
So now I'm going to just fast forward a little bit in regards to when you received 2 additional items. We've already talked about the known DNA, and you've shown that to the jury regarding Johnathan Quiles. And did you also receive that known DNA labeled Kamar Humphrey?
Yes.
And did you compare the known DNA standards of Johnathan Quiles and Kamar Humphrey to your findings in the swab from the left neck?
Yes.
What did you opine?
Johnathan Quiles is excluded as a contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained from this item, and Kamar Humphrey was included as a possible contributor to the mixture. The observed mixed DNA profile was greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample had originated from Ayanna Sawyer, Kamar Humphrey, and an unrelated individual than from Ayanna Sawyer and 2 unrelated individuals.
And then in regards to the labial swabs, were you able to conduct STR DNA analysis on that item?
No, this item failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of male DNA for the STR DNA testing process.
Next, in regards to the vaginal swabs, were you able to conduct STR DNA analysis on this particular swab?
Yes, this item demonstrated the presence of a mixture consistent with 2 donors, including at least 1 male contributor, and Ayanna Sawyer is expected to be a donor to this exhibit.
And did you compare these findings to the known standards of Johnathan Quiles and Kamar Humphrey?
Yes, Johnathan Quiles is excluded as a contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained from this item, and Kamar Humphrey is included as a possible contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained. The observed mixed DNA profile is approximately 200,000 times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Ayanna Sawyer and Kamar Humphrey than from Ayanna Sawyer and an unrelated individual.
Now, moving on to the underwear, you stated that you had taken some cuttings. Now, can you show or point to the underwear of where you would have made those cuttings?
Yes, so anywhere where you can see approximate squares or rectangles that were cut out alongside the inside of the crotch, those were the cuttings that I placed into a sterile tube for my STR DNA testing of this item.
And just looking at this exhibit, are the underwear pink and black?
Yes.
Now, where on the underwear did you take these cuttings?
They appear to be along the inside crotch of the underwear.
And is that where you took all of your cuttings from in regards to this underwear?
Yes, I believe so. I'd have to double check with my bench notes to confirm.
Would you just take a moment to refresh your recollection to see if there's any additional places besides the inside of the crotch area?
Yes, so the cuttings were taken from the inside crotch. I had observed heavy yellowish white staining along the inside crotch, and then took my cuttings from this area of staining.
So is it fair to say then all of the areas that were tested from this item was the inside crotch area.
That's correct.
Now, first, were you able, before we get to known standards, were you able to submit that area that you obtained from the inside crotch area for STR DNA analysis?
Yes.
And what were your findings at this time?
At the time, the DNA results obtained from this item demonstrated the presence of a mixture that was consistent with 2 donors, including at least 1 contributor, and Ayanna Sawyer was expected to be a donor to this exhibit.
Now, after you received the 2 known standards, again, of Kamar Humphrey and Johnathan Quiles, did your findings change in regards to the donor aspect?
Yes, the item was reassessed in terms of the number of contributors that were consistent with the mixture, because upon visual examination and statistical analysis, non-intuitive results were obtained from my initial comparison. So then the item was reported as possibly having originated from 2 or 3 individuals.
So after you received the known standard, based upon looking at the statistical data and looking at the known standard, that then had you opine that it was 2 or 3 donors. That's fair to say?
Correct, because originally the data presented itself as 2 donors from what it looked like. But when I had additional information that was presented and was conducting my analyses, the statistical analysis and the visual comparison didn't make sense. They were not intuitive in that sense. So then I needed to increase the number of contributors to account for that, to make it consistent with 3 donors. But there were results reported still for either an assumption of 2 or an assumption of 3 subsequent to that.
And well, first I will ask you about the comparison then to the known standard of Kamar Humphrey. What did you opine?
So assuming 2 donors to this mixture, Kamar Humphrey is excluded as a contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained. And assuming 3 donors to the mixture, comparison of the profile from Kamar Humphrey failed to demonstrate statistical support for inclusion or exclusion. Therefore, no determination can be made regarding the contribution of Kamar Humphrey to this item.
Now, if looking at the item as in regards to 3 donors, is that because if there was a 3rd donor, would that be too low then to include or exclude someone? Or actually include, because you weren't able to include or exclude, right?
Correct. For Kamar Humphrey, I was unable to include or exclude. They fell into a inconclusive area.
And is that based upon how much data was available if a 3rd donor existed?
Yes, the contribution amount from that 3rd donor was quite low. So it would be common for someone to be inconclusive potentially. We say inconclusive because you don't want the possibility of falsely including or falsely excluding someone. So there simply wasn't a sufficient statistical support for me to say one way or another whether they were outright excluded or included as a possible contributor.
And that's in regards to Kamar Humphrey with the interior crotch area of that underwear.
Correct.
Now, lastly, in the comparison regarding the known standard of Johnathan Quiles, can you please tell us what you opined?
Yes, so assuming 2 donors to the mixture, Johnathan Quiles is excluded as a contributor to the mixed DNA profile. And assuming 3 donors to the mixture, Johnathan Quiles is included as a possible contributor to the mixed DNA profile. The observed mixed DNA profile is greater than 700 billion times more likely to occur if the sample had originated from Ayanna Sawyer, Johnathan Quiles, and an unrelated individual than from Ayanna Sawyer and 2 unrelated individuals.
So based upon that, regarding the possibility of a 3rd donor, the defendants Jonathan Quiles' DNA was associated then with the cutouts that you did from the interior crotch area of that underwear from Ayanna Sawyer's sexual assault kit?
Yes, assuming 3 donors at that time, then he was included as a possible contributor because his DNA profile was consistent with contributing to the DNA types that were present in that sample.
No further questions.
I gotta take a break. Told the jury 11:45. I'm gonna stick to that. Members of the jury, it's 11:45. It's 11:40. We're gonna take a lunch break. Let's come back at 12:35. I'll give you 55 minutes. We'll try to get through the afternoon. Please remember, do not discuss the case among yourselves or each other. Do not do any independent research, and we'll pick up at 12:35. Well, I meant to say 12:35 to the jury if I said anything. 12:35. All right, the jury's outside our presence. Mr. Gutu, you're more than welcome to. I need to be back by 12:35. Sorry if it interrupts your afternoon.
No, thank you.
All right, anything we need to take care of outside the jury's presence before our lunch break? I can't hear you.
Yes, sir. I know the court wants to take a break, but I have to put on the record. This morning, I told the court and counsel that the deposition of Damian Hatch, deposition came out that he said the defendant told him he dumped a gun. He's read that. That's not what I said. So out of an abundance of caution and just to make sure, I reached out to the court recording company. They have found it on the audio themselves and the billions of words that they always get right. They have conceded error. They have now gone back and listened to the audio. The word that came out of his mouth was the defendant told him that he dumped the body. I have not had a chance to tell the defense that because I was just receiving a text from the company. This is precision reporting. So I was advising, first and foremost, the records of his counsel and defendant so that they know that if they go down that route of trying to impeach him that he said the word gun when he believes he said the word body, the state will most certainly clear that up and or potentially dealing with it thereafter. So I just want to make the record clear. They have gone back and listened to it. I will do everything I can over the lunch break to make sure that the defense gets to speak to either the president and or the court reporter of the company to verify that they have gone back and listened to the audio. It's clear to them the word that's in the deposition is incorrect. It does not say gun. It said body.
Okay. Anything else we need to take care of from the state's perspective?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything from the defense perspective?
Worried about calling a rebuttal witness about that issue.
Okay. All right. See you guys at 12:35.
Sorry about that, y'all. Sorry about that, child. Oh, y'all, it's so hard on me trying to. Whoa. Let's see what these folks said at the end. Hold up, right? Let me see something. Let me see what they said right here. Because he really
failed to demonstrate a sufficient amount of male DNA for the STR DNA testing process.
Next, in regards to the vaginal swabs, were you able to conduct STR DNA analysis on this particular swab?
Yes, this item demonstrated the presence of a mixture consistent with 2 donors, including at least 1 male contributor, and Ayanna Sawyer is expected to be a donor to this exhibit.
And did you compare these findings to the known standards of Johnathan Quiles and Kamar Humphrey?
Yes, Johnathan Quiles is excluded as a contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained from this item, and Kamar Humphrey is included as a possible contributor to the mixed DNA profile that was obtained. The observed mixed DNA profile is approximately 200,000 times more likely to occur if the sample originated from Ayanna Sawyer and Kamar Humphrey than from Ayanna Sawyer and an unrelated individual.
Now,
well, I tell you, their DNA's been something else. Ooh, yeah, I'm so did that last testimony? Did that last? Yeah, I'm so yeah, I woke up everybody in the shit. Yeah, I'm sorry. I woke up everybody in the chat. Yellow white. Yeah, he was saying something about that yellow and white stain. What was it? Wonder what that yellow and white stain was, y'all. Y'all gone. Y'all go on left. Y'all been gone alone. Big dog, y'all gone. Everybody gone. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Hey, y'all. Let me get it. Let me go then. Oh boy, there goes.